Dan Morris. You're watching Bosun Dan Bushcraft, and today we're going to be making birch oil from birch bark. Why, I hear you all enthusiastically ask? Well, because birch oil is a wonderfully useful substance. I'll show you what it looks like first before I get into what it does. Here's some that I made years and years and years and years ago. Birch oil keeps practically forever, as far as I know. It certainly doesn't go out of date. This is some that I made a heck of a long time ago. Oh, the smell. That's just the smell of the woods, that is. In this old Yankee Candle pot. And I don't know if you can see in there, it's that sludgy brown stuff at the bottom there. Now, over time, it separates into this clear oil that you can just see on the tip of my finger there. Clear is a little bit of a, shall we say, it's putting it a bit rich, but you can see it doesn't leave that much of a stainage from the clear stuff. Now, the clear oil that settles on the surface is really good for skin complaints, all sorts of things. Also wounds, it's very anti-infection, it's very good at killing disease and little problems like that you might pick up on your skin. It's also, the clear oil is very good for sunburn, and it's, I was told that you can use it on things like eczema and psoriasis, and it's brilliant for all that sort of stuff. Clear oil burns really well. I mean, it all burns, but the clear oil on the top burns particularly well. But the sludgy stuff on the bottom, that's this, ooh, dark and gooey, yeah, that stuff is brilliant for waterproofing tool handles, leather. In an emergency, if you've got a little hole in your tent or your canvas and you've had to stitch it up, you can just rub that all over where you've stitched it and it'll waterproof it. It does have a colour to it as well, a really quite a dark colour to it. It makes leather waterproof, it can make leather more supple, it can soften it, and I use it quite a lot. Good old Freya here, my favourite axe. It's actually what her wood was treated with after I made the handle for her. And you literally just dab the stuff on and work it in. And then your tool handle's waterproof, keeps your wood nice and nourished, helps to stop it from splitting. It also helps it maintain its grip. Even when it's wet, this birch oil is very grippy on your hand. It stops you losing control of it, stops it slipping and flying away across the woodlands. And it just smells absolutely fantastic as well. Now, there's something else you can do with birch oil. I imagine there's a great deal of things that you can do with it that we're probably not going to go through everything today. But something else that you can do with it, that sludgy stuff that makes that forms at the bottom over time, if you boil that in a pan, you can basically boil it down into a resin, very much like pine pitch glue. And you can use it to, well, you use it as a glue basically, as a heat set resin. So, you know, early peoples would have used it to affix arrowheads and things like that. In my personal opinion though, that's a waste of a thing to do with it. In a world where we've got so many pine trees and it is so easy to make your pine resin glue, we'll do that on another video. But in a world where, you know, we've got that ability to use pine resin's everywhere, I think it's a bit of a waste to use your birch oil for how hard it is to produce and how much birch bark it actually takes to produce. But anyway, let's get on with that. GoPro, stop recording. So, to make birch oil, obviously, we're going to need birch bark, and to be fair, you need quite a lot of it to make a small amount of birch oil. That's one of the reasons why I don't personally bother refining it down into the resin to use as a glue, because it's a bit of an exhaustive process, because obviously as you're refining it down you end up getting less and less of it. So for how you've got to take the bark off, and I'll show you that in a little while, it's quite rough. It would damage the tree if it was alive, and you'd put a bad wound on the tree, probably kill it. So you're really looking for dead birch trees, recently dead, the better really, if you can find such a thing. So I have actually just eyeballed a dead birch, still upright, and it is, if you can see it. Oh, camera's all gone wonky on me now. Hard to see it, it's in the background there, but just stood up behind those hollies, is a lovely, tall and very dead birch. So I think the only way I'm going to get the bark off it that I want is I'm going to have to bring it down. So I'm going to go and knock him over. So there is my lovely dead was standing birch tree. Not standing anymore. Now this bark is just peeling off, which is nice. Makes it nice and easy to collect. Other than that, I'd be shaving it off with a knife. This tree is perhaps a little more long time dead than I would have liked, but it's better than killing a living one. So what we're going to do is just collect lots and lots and lots of birch bark, as much as we possibly can for the moment, because it does use quite a lot to get what you want. So I'm just going to stuff my pockets full of birch bark until I feel like I've got enough. See for how much of the bark we're actually having to rip off to produce the oil. You can see why really you should be taking it from a dead tree, because if the tree was living, you'd make such a mess of it that, well, you're gonna kill it, and you don't want to be killing live birch trees. They're too useful. As always in this beautiful country, everything is always absolutely soaked to death, so that seems to be the usual theme. We're going to have to rely on split wood, so got to split the wood. Of course, you have to hit it where you want to hit it, otherwise it doesn't quite split. So I've got a nice stash of birch bark now stuffed in my pocket. You might be thinking, oh, that looks like quite a lot. It's not really. It takes so much to produce small quantities of the oil, so we're probably not going to get a huge quantity of the oil from a pile of birch bark that big, but it will do for what we need. So I'm going to put this safely over here and wrap it up in my old trusty towel. Never go anywhere without your towel. And we're going to need a fire. So there's my pile of trusty firewood over there that I prepared earlier, as usual, because I like doing that sort of thing, saves a bit of time. Nice big pile of wood. I'll take the camera over there for a sec. Lovely stuff. Now this was dead standing. It was standing till I got to it, and we're standing now. And it was sycamore. I said this earlier, I know, but sycamore is a lovely wood. It does tend to stay very dry and nice and grainy on the inside, and that, if you hold it up to your lip there, is about as dry as you're going to get, because here where I am in the heart of the sunny Staffordshire moorlands, this summer has been a total washout. It has done nothing but rain. It has not stopped, and that is the reason why I haven't actually posted anything for quite a while. And that's because it's been the school holidays, so I've been, you know, looking after the kiddies and all of that and other things. But everywhere is absolutely saturated. So today is, as so far all of my videos have been where fire is concerned, it's another one of those times where if you don't split your wood, you're probably not getting fire, because like I say, it's absolutely soaking wet through. In the middle though, lovely and dry. So I'm going to need a fire. I'm going to need a fire before I need a fire. I'll explain that in just a moment. But because it's been so soaking wet, I'm not faffing about making wood shavings and all that sort of kit and caboodle, and I'm actually going to cheat and use some fire lighters. I'm going to get a bit of stick from my mates about that. I'm going to say, that's not particularly bushcraft there, is it, Dan? Well, I don't care, it's done nothing but pour down, and I'm trying to make birch oil. We've been through fire lighting, we'll do some more fire lighting another time. I keep wanting to do friction fire, but in our woodlands being so soaked, put that back in my bag, not leaving it floating around the woods. With the woodlands being so absolutely saturated, friction fire is a bit of a nightmare at the moment. So I'll tell you what I'll do for those people who are particularly bushcrafty conscious with stuff like this. Should we light it with the old ferrocerium sparker and see if that makes it a bit more bushcraft for people? Sticks everywhere, I don't want them. There we go. There we are, friends. Does that keep things a little more bushcraft? We just need fire. So as always, my little tiny splittings on there first, get them going a bit. Right then, folks, so whilst we let this fire get going, because I'm sure by now we've all seen, I'm messing with this damn thing, we've all seen a million fires get lit. And what I did say a moment ago is we're going to need a fire before we need a fire. The reason is, to make birch oil, we're going to need 2 cans. First can is something like an old baked bean can or something like that. We're going to bury that in the ground later. We'll go through that in a bit. It needs to be clean. No baked bean goo at the bottom of it. Give it a wash out. But the other can you're going to need is a metal paint can. Something with a lid. Because you're going to need to close that lid. We're going to need to seal it. Now, this metal paint can, it's an old Hammerite can, as you can clearly see. Not sponsored, but if the people at Hammerite would like to sponsor me, please feel free. I use tons of this when I'm messing with my cars. Brilliant stuff. Anyhow, we're going to need it clean. We don't want all of that rubbery, plasticky Hammerite getting in with the birch oil. So this first fire, what I'm going to do is gently burn this can off to get rid of all of that stuff inside and on the lid and everything, and burn all of that out. Now, I'll show you this in a minute once the fire's going, but when I say burn it, I don't mean incinerate it. Yeah, you've got to burn it cautiously. Don't just build the world's biggest fire and then throw it in there like a Viking funeral. Otherwise you will warp to the point that it's just utterly useless, because some people might disagree, but you can get a campfire easily hot enough to actually melt steel. You know, I've melted glass and all sorts of things on them sometimes by accident, sometimes just out of sheer curiosity, but you will burn steel away in a fire if it's hot enough, so we're going to be a bit cautious about that. I'll show you that in just a moment once this fire gets going. So you see the inside of the can's caught fire now, all that paint's burning out. And that's about as big as you want your fire to burn your can out. If you get it too hot, like I say, you just can melt your can and ruin it, but you can see that the paint on the inside of that now has caught fire. So it won't be long till all of that's burnt away, and it'll be clean enough to use to make the birch oil. And what a lovely picture that looks as well. Yes. As usual, I think I may have somewhat overdone it with the firewood. Oh well, better more than less, eh? So the can's all clean now, it's all burnt out inside. I've just given it a little tickle around with a stick to get out any remaining flecks and bits of junk. Obviously I've let it cool down. Now what I need to do is put a hole in the middle of the bottom. So you need to use a little felt nail. About as close to the middle as you can get it. You don't have to be too obsessive about that. That'll do. Pull my nail back out. Got my lovely little hole. And what we want is the bottom of that to be concaved. So what I'm going to do, little combat shovel. Concave the bottom so that the oil will naturally run to where my little hole is. And also we need a little hole in the lid too. So take the lid and there's a piece of wood there. Where's my nail gone? Now the little hole in the top in the lid, that's going to let all the vapour out, all the steam, because there's going to be a lot of steam that comes out, because obviously there's a lot of liquid in this bark. It has been raining for a long time. Just make sure this fire stays burning, because we're going to need that. Now we've got his can. What you want to do is put your can where the camera can see it ideally. Yeah, so we want to put the birch bark in the can, but the more sort of vertically you can organise it, the neater, the better. You don't want to just stuff it all in. Okay. What will happen then, if you just stuff it all in one great big ball, is it'll block the hole up and the oil won't be able to run out. So organisation is the key here. Try and get it as sort of as neat and as vertical as you can. Probably doesn't look that neat right now what I'm doing, but from that point, once I've got all of it, and I'm going to have to use every little bit of it because, like I say, it doesn't create as much as you might think it does. And there, sort of roll it up, pop it in your can, poke all the remnants of everything else that's lying about in there as well. And then from there, take your lid and seal it in that can. Lovely. Can full of birch bark. Now what we're going to need is a hole in the ground. So take the old combat shovel here, clean a little space up. And dig myself a nice little hole. Nice clay-filled soil. A bulb of some description. I save a lump of this clay, I'll show you why later on. Check my depth with my bean can, a little more. About deep enough. So your bean can in your hole. So what's going to happen, this, your can full of bark is going to sit on top of it. Okay, and once you're on that point, you've got it all nice and sat where it should be, bury it. Do as long as we're delicate with it, we don't knock it about too much. Now we need to take the fire to the can and make the fire now around the can. I really have gone overboard on the wood production. I've got far more wood than I'm ever going to need. I guess I'll just have myself a charming little fire afterwards. That lump of clay I saved earlier, I'm just going to pop it over the hole in the can. That'll let the steam come out, but it should stop flames getting in there and setting fire to the bark itself inside. You don't want the bark inside catch fire, because if you do, all that's going to happen is, well, for a start, you'll burn all your bark away, but it'll most likely blow the lid off your can and ruin the whole process for you. So I shall just get this into flame now, and then get a bit more wood around it. So it's been about an hour, I'd say, and I'm just going to let it burn out now, and it should be about there. I'm going to check it in a moment just to see. You can see I've built myself that little fire I said about next to it, because I've got far too much firewood. So I'm just going to burn off that massive collection of firewood I've created. I'm just going to check, see if there is still smoke coming out of the little vent hole on the top, because ideally we want that the smoke to have stopped from the little vent at the top. That tells you, oh no, there's still quite a lot coming out of there. Still smoking away. That means it's still going, still doing its magic. I shall give it a little bit longer. Bit of practice while I'm waiting for the old birch oil to simmer. You gotta love these little combat spades. So much fun. They dig. They're good for digging too. It's not just lobbing them at dead trees. And well, for all you environmentalists out there who might complain about what I'm doing right now, knocking holes in trees with axes and spades, this one is stone cold dead. The bark's completely gone from around it. There's nothing going on at the top of it. And at the long term, it's gonna have to come down, otherwise it's just gonna turn into one of the old widow makers, as they call them. Now this has nothing to do with birch oil, absolutely nothing at all with it, but I've just looked over and noticed that there is over here an absolute field of wood sorrel. Lovely little stuff. Very nice, very flavoursome. Looks like clover. It isn't clover. It doesn't have the little white flecks on it. As a general rule of thumb, because it does look so much like clover, as a general rule of thumb, wood sorrel, you won't find it growing in fields, and clover, you won't find it growing in woods. So if it's growing around the trees, it's most likely wood sorrel. Another quick test you can do to find out if it's clover or not is, clover tastes like burning, it's disgusting. Whereas this stuff tastes like cider vinegar or apple skins. Absolutely gorgeous stuff. A great accompaniment to a trout or a steak or whatever you've got, but have another bit of that. But it is absolutely beautiful, and there is an entire little farm of it growing here. Delicious. Well, it's been just a little over an hour now, I'd say, and we've still got a little bit of smoke coming out of the squeaky camera stand. A little bit of smoke coming out of the vent hole on the top of the can, which means I can leave it just a little bit longer. If I don't know if you'll pick it up on here, but you can still see just a little bit of smoke pouring out of that vent hole there, which really is telling you that there's still a little bit more left to go, a little bit more left to steam out. So I'm just going to let it boil away for a little while longer whilst I'm enjoying burning off the large pile of wood that I created that I didn't really need. Can't complain about that though. It's always nice to have a little fire, especially in this peaceful bit of woodland. It's peaceful now. A minute ago there was a crow in a tree just like screaming its face off. Don't really know what it wanted, but it's gone all quiet now. Lovely bit of woodland. Nice bit of scenery there with the axe. Let's give you a bit of a panoramic view there. Don't know if you want one, but you're getting it. Ta-da! And back to me can. Well, the moment of truth. Let it cool for just a little while. Now we're gonna have to dig it out of the ground and see if we actually have any birch oil. Now I'm not even gonna lie to you. If I take that can off and there's absolutely nothing underneath there, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened to me. Bark choice is everything, and the fresher the bark really the better, but I'm trying to avoid taking it off a live tree. If you ever come across a live tree that's fallen, or somebody has one that they've cut down because it was in the way, they didn't want it, ideal then. But here in the woods I'm not knocking live birch trees down or repping all the bark off them. It's just, we don't need to do that. So as the can, now what I've got to do is, because it's still a little warm, I haven't let it cool that long, Just pin it in place with a stick. Start clearing around it. You want to scrape as much from around as you can, so to get it away from the base of the top of your bean can ideally, because what you don't want to do is lift this can off and then a great pile of clay and rubbish falls into it. And you can see the label still on the bean can, so it shows you how well just being buried a little while under the ground really helps it. On that note, a handy tip to do with axes. A friend of mine once asked me, we were in the woods and he broke his axe handle and we were going to be out for a few days and he wanted to make a new axe handle and we didn't have a drill or anything like that to get what was left of the old axe handle out of the head. And he said, can I burn it out? And I said, well, you can, but obviously if you just throw the axe head itself in the fire, you'll destroy the temper of the blade. So what you do is you bury the axe so the blade's right in the ground and you're just leaving the eye sticking out where the wood is, from which point then you light a fire around it and you can burn the wood out. I know that's nothing at all to do with birch oil, but right then, the moment of truth or potentially bitter disappointment. Let's lift this hot can off and see what we've got. Just going to tap it a couple of times. And so you can see that I'm not lying, I'm not making it up. Let's have a look. What have we got? Bring the squeaky stand down. There's oil in there. Yeah, don't know how much just yet. The can is obviously still hot. You can tell it's hot, it's steaming away in the ground. But there is oil in there. No, it's not actually that hot, it's the ground itself that's steaming. Lovely. So, at the risk of burning my fingers for you guys. Ow, 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 ow. Ah, yes. Oh, that smells absolutely fantastic. That is more than I thought I was going to get, to be fair, for the amount of bark that I had. And you can see, look, a nice little quantity of good old-fashioned birch oil in there. So you can already see the difference between the layers. You've got the thicker, some thicker stuff, and then you've got the thin liquid on the top. Well, we want it all. So, oh, Stan's doing its thing again. Oh, it smells so good, I want to drink it. I don't think you should drink it, to be fair. I can't imagine it would do you any good. Oh, but that is the good stuff. And it's going into the old repurposed Yankee candle jar. That's actually mostly sludge at the bottom now, but it's still good. Even that sludge is still great for your tool handles, or it's just as good for rubbing on skin complaints as well, but obviously you get a bit of a natural fake tan out of it. So into the old pot you go. Lovely. Just warm that up a little bit on the fire, and then you can hear it popping and buzzing. But then any oil that's stuck around the side will just run to the bottom and get all of it out. Lovely. Really should stop smelling it. I'm looking like some sort of birch oil pervert. Just a little bit. Oh, magnificent. That all cool down. Oh, so that was birch oil. There's my fire. I'm just going to let that all burn off. I've actually got through some of that redonkulous wood pile that I made over there. If I can drag my old knees off the floor. Oh, there we go. And that, in a nutshell, is birch oil. Very useful. Actually, it has lots and lots of uses. It's not just waterproofing tool handles or fabric and leather or treating skin complaints. That oil on the top, it burns. You can use it to light fire, which, as you've seen, for how difficult it can be to get it, you would probably only use that as a fire lighting measure if you're stuffed up everything else and you really needed it. But it is very useful stuff. And as always, I advise you all to go and do your own research on what the uses are and other things as well. Don't just take my word for it, always go and find out. You might be surprised at the things you can do with it. But that is me out for today. That is all we need for today's video. And as usual, you guys get yourselves out there, get in the woods, get bushcrafting, get this rare bit of sunshine coming through the trees. I haven't seen that in a while. Get yourselves out there, get bushcrafting, and get enjoying yourselves, basically. Spend some time with nature. And that is Bosun Dan out.